Hi guys, and welcome back to Drama King channel. Ready for new crazy stories? Let's go to the first one, about OP's mother-in-law, who cut OP's wedding dress. But the thing is, she doesn't know that it wasn't a real one. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment. I teach piano lessons. Our house has 2 floors. We use the first floor for my piano lessons and for storage. On the first floor, we have a huge closet. Unfortunately, we had some theft happen. Students stole some things. So I put a lock on that closet. My future mother-in-law knows all this. That closet is the only closet big enough to store my wedding dress, so I stored it there. One day, my future mother-in-law came to visit. My future mother-in-law asked to see the dress. I unlocked the closet, showed her the dress, and then I put it back in the closet and locked the door. This made my future mother-in-law extremely upset. She claimed I didn't trust her, and that's why I locked the closet. I have shown her the dress before and locked the closet after with no complaints from her before. My husband and future father-in-law got confused and irritated, which caused a bit of back and forth. I decided to laugh it off. I said, "It's fine. I can just unlock the closet." Obviously, this was all super suspicious. I have read all those crazy stories about people randomly cutting up other people's wedding dresses. I walked up the stairs thinking, no way she would do that. But just in case. So, while my future mother-in-law was on the phone with my future brother-in-law, I went downstairs, grabbed my dress, and hid it somewhere else, and locked it. Later on, future brother-in-law, his wife, and his baby came, and we had a grand old time. My future mother-in-law did go missing for a portion of it, and after reappearing, suggested we leave. This was highly unusual, because she never wants to leave my house first. She's always overstaying her welcome. Even if fiancé and I are about to leave our own house, she's still sitting on the couch and not letting us go until she decides to leave. She and future father-in-law left. Future brother-in-law's wife asked to see the dress and for me to try it on, because she hadn't seen me in it yet. I forgot I had moved the dress. I also forgot that I had bought a cheap wedding dress from AliExpress I would be using for a photo shoot and left it in the closet, and it was a similar dress bag. I opened it, and the dress was cut to shreds. I was shocked and speechless. My fiancé, future brother-in-law, and his wife were all freaking out while I was still speechless. It slowly dawned on me that it wasn't my actual wedding dress, but I did not tell them. My husband checked the CCTV footage. We also installed CCTV after the theft, which my father-in-law knows about. No surprise, it captured footage of my future mother-in-law cutting up the dress. My fiancé and I drove to their house, and my fiancé yelled at her. She denied it. Edit. She tried to claim a student did it, but only an hour has passed since she left our house, and it was my day off, so I had no students coming and going. She was obviously hoping that I would find out much later, like days later at least, and she would blame a student if we confronted her. So my fiancé showed her the footage. I got emotional and started crying silently. My fiancé took us home. He is really upset. I feel guilty that I didn't tell anyone it's not the real wedding dress, and maybe it wouldn't have become such a big commotion if I told them. OP is not an idiot. This was exactly the appropriate amount of sneakery to prove that OP's future mother-in-law is a horrible human being and should never be allowed in OP's home again. OP still has her wedding dress, which is just an extra bonus. Time to get OP's fiancé on board with setting hard boundaries on his mother. She requires real consequences for her actions. If she's ever had the opportunity to make keys to OP's house, OP should go ahead and change those locks now. Cultural context. It sounds weird, but the women in my family aren't expected to work. You're actually looked down on if you do, as it insinuates that your husband isn't good enough to support you. Arranged marriages are a thing too, and generally, a prospective partner is picked for you based on their wealth and social status. Their personality or looks just aren't that important. I'm trying to keep the word count down explaining this. But I do want to mention, I've seen these marriages succeed at around the same rate as the non-arranged marriages I've witnessed. With that out of the way, I married for love. My husband is awesome. We gel on emotional and intellectual level. He's hot AF, and nearly half a decade into marriage, I'm still waiting for the honeymoon period to end. Even better, he doesn't base his sense of worth and masculinity on whether or not his wife works. Dude is freaking proud of what I do. My husband is from the same culture as I am, and as bad as it sounds, we would never have matched with each other because he wasn't at my level of status and wealth. His brother got a wife the traditional way, and he wasn't worth. She's really sweet, we get along, but it's clear she kinda looks down on me because I work. I send my kiddo to daycare 3 days a week, and she dropped some hints about it in the past, which I just brushed off. I didn't blame her, it's just the way she was brought up. And because we're a two-income family, I could set up a nursery for my child and have a cute playroom for them. When my nephew and niece come over, twice a year for about a week, they always have the best time there. They always have the time of their lives. I always send them home with gifts, so they aren't too sad when they leave. Anyway, I had bought my child a play kitchen for the playroom, and when the niece and nephew came to stay, they loved it. It was too big for them to take home, so I decided I'd order it online for them. When I was sitting with my sister-in-law, my nephew started asking why they didn't have one at home. My sister-in-law said something to the effect of, because it's too expensive. My nephew then said, well, how come my children can have one? Without skipping, I replied, because I work. As soon as it was out of my mouth, I knew I ducked up. To make things worse, my nephew started asking his mom why she didn't work so he could have play kitchen. She scolded him, then was standoffish with me until they left 2 days later. I didn't send the play kitchen because I wasn't sure how she'd take it. Before I get asked why I didn't apologize, I had no idea how to. I really like my career. My child is happy going to daycare. They are a very social toddler. I'm not ashamed of working. I am ashamed of how I probably made her feel. Updates, edits. To clarify, I am extremely privileged to have received an education and opportunity to have a career. Yes, I got a lot of flack for it, so I'm definitely sensitive. But I also recognize that not all of the women in my family got the opportunity or encouragement to work, which is why I lean towards myself being the AH. For the record, the only reason I got education was because my mom convinced my dad that no man wanted an uneducated wife. Sounds terrible, I know, but my dad's came around. I have had comments that I'm the equivalent of a woman selling herself, though, so that's kinda sucked. I don't look down on women who don't work. I stayed home until my kiddo was 18 months before putting him into daycare. I have a lot of respect and admiration for women who make that decision. I am very lucky to have spent that time with my child. But as much of a crunchy granola mom that I was, I recognized that I wasn't fulfilling my child as well as a qualified educator could. Hence, the 3 days a week. When I first met my sister-in-law, I was still a stay-at-home mom, so we got along really well. Well, she told me that she decided at an early age that she didn't want a career, and that she asked to be taken out of school early. I can't help but feel that she was encouraged to do so, and did it because, well, what teen enjoys school? But at the same time, I respect her enough as a woman with her own agency that would work towards her decision. My brother-in-law honestly wouldn't mind it if she decided to go back to school, but I suspect the pressure and judgment of her family would keep her back. It was only once I started transitioning back to work that she started making snide comments. I still think I'm a good mom, so it didn't really bother me. I recognized that what I said was insensitive and probably sparked a conversation with her son that she wasn't ready to have. Yes, brother-in-law and sister-in-law aren't as well off, but there's a saying in our family that goes, you take whatever your husband earns. When they come to visit, it's part of our hospitality culture to utterly spoil guests. So my husband gives everyone spending money, and kids get new clothes and toys, and I cook ridiculous amounts of food. I think OP is not an idiot. I doubt the sister-in-law ever apologizes when she says things about OP working. I'd let her get over it on her own, the same way OP does when she makes one of her comments. Nothing OP said was a lie or purposefully hurtful. Sometimes the truth stings a little. She should take some time to reflect on herself. If she brings it up, OP should remind her of past tasteless comments and tell her OP is proud of her family dynamic. I don't see the need to apologize. I, 20 female, and my little sis, 7 female, lost our parents 6 years ago in an accident. Our grandparents took care of us after that, but they've always been kind of uncaring from the start. My uncle, 35 male, was the one who was actually there for us when we had nobody. He's been the older brother, father figure in our lives. My sis loves him to death, and he really cares about us, unlike anyone else. 2 weeks ago, my uncle invited us to stay with him for a few days. My aunt has never liked us, and she always complains or makes rude comments about how we orphans should be grateful that she's letting my uncle buy things for us, or how I should be grateful I'm a young girl because that's the only reason he's helping us, etc. A few days ago, my sis accidentally dropped the TV remote and it stopped working. Honestly, it was in a bad shape already, and it was really old, but my aunt blamed it on her. She went on a huge rant about how we were ruining her house and how we were being ungrateful. She brought up her own 10-year-old son and told us that we should try to be like him, how he was really well-mannered, etc. Her son is not well-mannered at all. He constantly calls us orphans. He always snatches the remote food from my sister, saying that it was his house and his TV, his food. Usually, I ignore the comments because it's true and just take my sister and go back to my room. But when my sister dropped the remote and my aunt made comments about her, I couldn't tolerate it. She kept demanding money, which I wouldn't give her even if she didn't ask. And she kept calling my sis ungrateful little crap and said that she should know her place. I would ignore it if it was about me, but my sister is all I have. I grabbed my purse from my room and threw the money she was asking at her face. I was literally in tears. I called her a greedy bee and left without saying anything. My uncle was not home during all of this. Now my aunt is demanding an apology, and my grandparents are angry with me. They say that my aunt was kind enough to let me stay there, and I shouldn't be ungrateful when I have nobody. They want me to apologize, but I don't want to. It was my uncle who helped me and wanted me to stay, not her and her son. My uncle told me not to worry about it, but my grandparents are pressuring me. I just want an outside perspective on this. Am I the a-hole? I don't think OP is an a-hole. OP's aunt is A, and so are OP's grandparents. OP's cousin is learning this behavior from them as well. OP is not worth less than anyone else because of situation out of her control happening. Her substantial loss does not define her, nor negate her worth. I don't have any advice on how to handle OP's aunt and this current situation. OP can't do it. Only Uncle can. And meanwhile, OP needs to be strong for herself and her sister. My ex-husband and I always planned to have 3 children. Inexplicably, several months in our 3rd pregnancy, he completely changed his mind and insisted that we give her up for adoption, citing a few ridiculous reasons. He asked for a divorce and 50-50 custody of just our older 2, Sam and Beth, when our youngest, Anne, was born and I refused to give her up. The judge ordered him to pay half the college costs for all 3, in addition to a hefty child support for Anne, as he made a huge career change trying to get out of support, but was instead ordered to pay at the previous rate. To my ex's credit, he has by all accounts been a doting father to Sam and Beth, even though he's refused to ever meet Anne. I eventually remarried a man who come to love and raise the kids as his own. Because our state doesn't reduce a bio parent's financial obligation due to the income of a step-parent, the dual income allowed my husband and I to raise the kids very comfortably. While my ex still pays support for Anne, 13, and Beth, 16, now that she's chosen to live just with us. As we don't need it for daily expenses, the support money has always been banked for their future needs, split evenly among the 3 kids. My ex's parents were furious at his decision to cut out Anne, and redirected his inheritance to Anne. Initially, this made sense to me, as I figured it would go to Anne's therapy bills to deal with the damage of being abandoned by her father, while her siblings were accepted and loved by him. But as it turns out, Anne is seemingly unfazed by it. Her stepfather has been Dad her entire living memory, and she's never shown any sign of being left behind or unworthy. So Anne will enter adulthood with her future needs fund intact, in addition to the $250,000 trust fund. Beth and Anne will be getting future needs funds comprised mostly of their sister's child support money, in addition to my husband and I fully covering their educational desires. My issue is that Sam, 19, has both decided against an education and begun to bristle over his dad's anger at the child support biz. Due to my ex's career change, it looks like he won't be able to retire, despite being in increasingly poor health. Although the kids don't know that the support money is being saved for them, thanks to my ex, they do know about Anne's trust fund. And Sam has begun to get at Anne to promise to give their dad his inheritance when her fund matures. In addition to insisting I drop Anne's support order, which my husband is totally against. Now that Sam is an adult, my options for forcing him into family therapy are limited, and I feel increasingly bad about lying by omission about the future fund, though I know he'd just give it to his dad. But there's a huge rift now between Sam and his sisters. Sam hates me for being greedy, and has adopted some rather radical outlooks because of it. Am I the a-hole here? My husband says no, but I'm terrified at how this is changing my relationship with Sam. Of course, OP is not an a-hole. OP's ex intentionally chose to change his career to one that was less lucrative, and he did so in an attempt to avoid legal obligation, and should not give her biological father a dime. It is his own fault he chose not to make more money, and his own fault he was disinherited.